Thanks very much. What I'm going to talk a little bit about today, it's amazing how what I'm going to say in many ways reflects a lot of what you've been hearing earlier on, which is good. I might present a couple of challenges at the end, which I think might be about how we really prepare ourselves for the future and the future of the design world, and whether we're actually doing enough to make ourselves ready for it. But we'll talk a little bit more about some other stuff first. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how the role of design has changed and shifted, our world today, some of the challenges and opportunities that we face. The design challenges, I'll tell you a little bit by example of some of the design challenges that we're facing at the Design Council and what we've learned from some of those, and then get into the future role of designers or design thinkers and practitioners as a number of the people have talked about earlier on. To talk about the role of designers, I think we have to first talk about the role of design. We've got a fascinating anniversary this year. We are 70 years old this year. The Design Council was set up by Winston Churchill back in 1944 at the end of the war. And it was really interesting. At that point, at that time, it was set up to really boost British industry. It was about making sure that we were competitive in the world landscape. And in many respects, the Design Council, whilst it's changed dramatically over the years, still plays a significant role in that same way. So design used to be about creating good physical products or objects. It's paid homage to the industrial age. It's changed dramatically over the years. But we have a very simple mission, which is we champion great design to improve people's lives. And I think when you have something as a mantra as simple and compelling as that, then it actually works in all of the examples that I've been hearing about this morning. I think design's role in interpreting technology remains ever more relevant, and the designer's potential contribution to the changing role that government plays in our lives has been relatively untapped as yet. Far less, I think, the role that design can play in helping society itself shape our own future. And I was just talking to a couple of people just now about how we can tackle some of the huge issues that we face with our aging population, and I'll touch a little bit on that in a minute. At the European level, design is also playing an increasingly important role, and I think that is really, really important. The design, the EU has recognised that design is a really important driver for prosperity, and a driver for change. As you may be aware, we are involved in leading the consortium on this thing called Design for Europe. It's an initiative that we are working with partners across Europe. I'm very pleased that we are working with our friends here in Denmark as well. I know that they're having an all-day meeting on Design for Europe tomorrow, which unfortunately I can't join, but never mind. And it's a huge program. It's a 3.8 million euro program over the next 3 years, funded by the EU, and it's about promoting the awareness and adoption of design-driven innovation to a much wider audience. The beauty of having seminars and conferences like this is that we all sit here and talk to ourselves, and we believe in it. It's how do we get the message to a much wider audience that is the real challenge. And the Design for Europe initiative is about getting to businesses in the broadest sense, getting to policymakers, getting to the public sector, because it's those people that we need to start selling the message about the role and importance of design to. So for me, it's a real firm commitment in the widening scope of design, stretching beyond business, which I think is where maybe traditionally and a lot of the examples that we've talked about today are demonstrated, but design can play a much, much, much broader role. Why is design important? Well, I think as our world is changing, I feel very strongly that design's role ensuring that the human being is put at the heart of solutions has never been more important. And not least, I think, in the salient role that design can play in shaping and moulding digital technology, making it useful and meaningful for people. Imagine a world where technology and innovation exists without design. A newly released report by the British communication watchdog Ofcom states that the average 6-year-old child understands more about digital technology than the average 45-year-old adult. They may not know who Steve Jobs is, they may not even be able to tie their shoelace, but they're capable of operating an iPad better than a lot of people 10 times their age. So how do we bridge that digital divide? Design can play a pivotal role. I think a fascinating thing for me, the Design Museum runs a design prize every year. And last year, so best design of the year, last year the one that won was the Government Digital Service. Now, how amazing is that? A website that's run by the British government won the design of the year. Is that not incredible? But it is the Government Digital Service, the GDS as we know it by, is leading the digital transformation of government in the UK. They want to ensure that our government offers world-class digital products that really genuinely meet people's needs. We know the guys really well, and I remember talking to Ben about back in the day about Afghanistan, and he said, if you want to know the government's philosophy or approach to Afghanistan, you need to visit 10 different sites to get a comprehensive view. Well, that's not how we want to appreciate and understand information. We want to know something, we want to go to one place and find everything that we need there. And I suspect that if this project continues as it's continuing, it could actually start to change the way that government is configured and shaped in the physical sense as well as the virtual sense. This conference is about innovation in a digital world, and I think design has a vital and inseparable role to play in that. I think it's the qualities of designers and design thinking which actually play such a pivotal role. It's the honesty, sensitivity, the ability to empathize and simplify complex issues, use data meaningfully. They're key ingredients. Design makes it simple. Design makes it useful, delightful, desirable, and it makes it meaningful. And I think we must never forget that. Our world today, I mean, we can talk endlessly about the huge challenges that we're facing in the world today. Healthcare, aging population, different challenges in housing. Really interesting, I was just talking to a Japanese colleague. In the West, we can't build enough houses. In Japan, they've got too many houses. So I don't know, we maybe just need to shift population around. But however, I just wanted to sort of share what our focus is at the Design Council in the UK. We have 4 pillars which drive everything we do. The first is growth by design, which underpins all our work that we have done over the many, many years with business and increasingly actually with the public sector and with social innovation. We've been working with the Cabinet Office to look at the social innovation landscape in the UK, and it makes for a very interesting report which you'll get on our website. The second one is communities by design. Importantly to know that 2 years ago, we merged with an organisation called CABE. CABE is the Commission for Architecture and the Built Environment. So it means that the Design Council is probably unique in the world. I think Norway has just done something similar very recently. But we now look after communities, neighbourhoods, housing, building, product services, increasingly policy. And I don't think there's another organisation that has quite as holistic a view of the design world as we're lucky to be able to do. So Communities by design is our second main focus. It concludes our work in the built environment, but it also includes our work with neighbourhood planning, with housing, and increasingly, as people were talking about earlier on, how you deal with design at a city level. Active by design is our third area, tackling the increasing obesity challenge that we face in the West, and particularly in the UK. And if anyone's around on September the 18th, we're holding our first Active by Design conference in London. It would be great to see you there if you're around. And last but not least, aging better by design. The important word there is better. It wouldn't be quite the same without that word, which is tackling the ticking time bomb that we have of our aging society and looking at the revolution that is going to be needed in how we care for an older society. So, how can design play a meaningful role in all of these areas? What are the boundaries of design? What are the boundaries of the problem? And I think it's increasingly, you get a sense from a lot of the speakers this morning, is that design is looking at a much broader aspect and a much broader understanding of where the challenges are. So, rather than talking in the abstract, what I thought I'd do is take you just through a few examples of where we at the Design Council have been using design thinking and design skills to tackle areas that might not previously have considered design to be part of the solution. And I can assure you that none of the companies that I'm going to show you have yet been taken over by Facebook, but you never know. So let's start with our work in universities. We work with science and technology teams at pre-startup or startup stage, and our coaching program has to date helped to de-risk concepts in about 100 early-stage science and technology projects. We've worked with Oxford, Cambridge, Newcastle, Nottingham, and Bristol, so right across the spectrum, supported spin-outs and startups. And I think one of the major insights that we've come across in our university work is that design can be really valuable at a very early technology readiness stage where the specific application of an idea might be unclear. And I'll touch on that in a second. And I think the second area that I believe design can play a really key role is particularly when we start to look at first applications with customers. Critically, what we're trying to achieve with research teams is to help them explore market opportunities and practical applications by bringing in the end user perspective. It's amazing how you can work with inventors who have fascinating ideas but have never really thought about how the thing that they've developed is going to actually work with real people in real situations. And then I think it's the action planning that helps teams develop the route from research to market implementation. That is the second area that we do a lot of work in. So a good example of this is a project called Heartlight, which was a healthcare and technology project. This was working with the Technology Transfer Office at the University of Nottingham. And the Heartlight project was a new way to measure a person's heartbeat using a tiny, unobtrusive, light-based device. You can see it on the screen. However, they needed to think beyond the obvious to excite potential sponsors and investors. They had one idea in mind. As a direct result of a series of design-led workshops that we developed, that we worked with them on, we identified 45 different ways that you could use the same technology in truly meaningful ways. And they'd never thought about it. And that allowed us to think about commercializing the technology as propositions in a way that allowed them to get just under £1 million of investment, which allowed them to take this first product to market. Another one, which is a slightly older one, but still is relevant because it's really successful today, was Owlstone. Cambridge University spin-out is Billy Boyle, who's the company founder and director. They came to us back in the late 2000s. with some incredible groundbreaking technology. What they didn't have was the know-how to take it to market. Now, 8 years on, they're making full use of a user-led product development approach, and they're at the cutting edge of micro and nano fabrication technology techniques. They've attracted more than £15 million in investment, and they're in the process currently of developing a device that will provide a fast and early diagnosis of colon cancer simply by smelling a cancer patient's urine. So it's a stunning example of how innovative design can make people's lives better. The device was a very simple thing. It was a 5 pence piece, or the size of a teensy-weensy thing, that could detect a wide range of chemical agents, smells to you and I, in extremely small quantities. It utilised fabrication techniques that allowed them to make it 100 times smaller and 1,000 times cheaper than existing technology. And their problem, alongside so many high technology startups, was that whilst the ink was still drying on the business plan, they hadn't thought about how to get the product out of the lab and into the marketplace. And, particularly when you've got something that small and that complex, it's extremely difficult to explain it, and that's where we worked with them to help do that. We ran a series of intensive diagnostic workshops, interestingly working with other technology venture CEOs, so people bringing their different perspectives from different technologies and different industries to bear. And at an early stage, we alerted the company to the possibilities on a much broader stage. So I won't go through it here, but you can see the sort of immediate results that emanated from that design-led approach. Pressing two things. And I think that we've got a huge ream of stories that actually back that idea up of new licenses and partnerships, helping people develop compelling propositions, accelerating the commercialization, and I do genuinely believe that it's that design input that can often be the catalyst that helps achieve some of those things. Quickly, I just want to tell you about some of the work that we've been doing in the manufacturing sector. This is a major area of business for us. We've spent 10 years working with small and medium-sized businesses, helping them to grow in areas that they would never have been able to grow in before. Typically, these are businesses that need help to stand 5 minutes. Help to stand out in saturated markets. In fact, well, if we're talking 5 minutes, I'm going to rattle through. I don't have time to do that. I did just want to quickly show you a film, and that's 3 minutes, and then I'll finish off. Okay, so let me get to that.
Being a small business in Britain isn't easy, is it? In fact, right now, it all looks pretty bleak. And yet, within the next 5 years, the government believes over half of all new jobs will come from small businesses. That's you. Despite all this doom and gloom, some companies have already found a way to grow. So what's their secret? You see, design isn't just about shiny gadgets or a new logo. It's about thinking beyond what you normally do and transforming the world around you. Think of design as a really flexible and powerful tool that can help with everything your business needs to thrive. Like making new products that reach new customers, improving your workplace so you're more productive, while creating an exciting brand that you can watch grow. And the results? Well, they speak for themselves. Every £1 spent on design can give you over £20 in increased revenue and £4 in increased profit. And if you want to sell to new markets, that same £1 can turn into £5 in increased exports. It's no surprise that UK businesses spend £33 billion on design every year. So what makes design such a powerful tool? It's simple, really. Design is about people. Designers solve problems by working out the impact that your product or service will have on the people that use it. Whatever you're designing, people Your customers, your team, are at the heart of it. That means your design can't help but be user-friendly. So people can't help but like what you do. That's good news for your business, which is pretty good news for everyone. Design is about thinking differently and growing your business. See? It's really not a secret.
So, there's that phrase called life follows art. So I was in Amsterdam yesterday, and I don't know if anyone knows Amsterdam, but all the trendy new places are in the north, across the water, and we were queuing up to get the ferry across to the other side. And suddenly this gentleman came whizzing by and stood in front of me, and it was like he was sort of standing on his suitcase. And you know those things that you sometimes see, I can't remember what they're called. Segways, segways. Well, it was basically just the bottom bit, and he just stood on, he had pedals on either side, and that was it. And so, you can see it follows. Okay, so how is design changing? Let me just quickly rattle through. So how is design changing? Interestingly, in Amsterdam, I've spent the last couple of days with board colleagues at the Bureau of European Design Associations, where we've been formulating our strategy for the next 3 to 5 years. And we've spent much of the time talking about how we keep relevant and up to speed with the way that things are changing. I think design, thankfully, is moving merely from aesthetics to form and function to problem solving and now problem framing and innovation. And I think at senior levels and in the public sector, the scope of design is being stretched and becoming much more strategic too. Just need to look at Leading Business by Design, which is on our website. The Danish Design Ladder, which I think most eloquently shows the flow from designer's styling, designer's process, designer's innovation. And last but not least, as many of you have talked about this morning, I think the role of design has become much more cross-disciplinary. We run a huge number of challenges at the Design Council, and what we're doing constantly is bringing the sort of people that you see on this chart together to tackle the sorts of problems that teams of one discipline just cannot solve any longer. And I think as the world becomes more interconnected and complex, so have the problems as well as the opportunities. So increasingly, we need multidisciplinary teams to work together, and I think designers need to be able to work in that environment. And I think this is one of my challenges for the design industry. If, as designers, we expect respect and understanding from other disciplines, then it's no surprise that these other disciplines expect designers to understand and respect what they do. And I think gone are the days when designers worked in isolation. We need to work in a much broader world and need to understand a much broader world. So I think generally design is increasingly diverse and designers are required to take on more multifaceted and strategic roles. And I think we need as an industry to be prepared for the sort of roles that we might be taking on in the future. You've got a designer who heads up, who's chief exec of Burberry. That's one of the rare exceptions. But you are getting designers in the boardroom who have rights of veto. You've got designers in VC companies, as we were talking about earlier on. You've got designers in the public sector. The government digital service in Great Britain is employing a designer to sit at the heart of every government department. As designers, then, we need to be able to talk the language of the environment that we're about to enter. And that perhaps means that designers are changing, and what we mean by design is changing. I think, and it's not just happening here in Europe, it's happening across the world. The civic service from Parsons in America, the Human Experience Lab in Singapore, the Chilean government is driving design thinking across its whole infrastructure. And I think that as we see the role of design and design practitioners becoming increasingly important, design skills becoming more ubiquitous, the practice of design will at the same time become more specialist. One of the challenges I think, though, that we do face is I'm frankly very worried about whether our education systems across Europe are capable of keeping up with the change that we are seeing. And I'm increasingly worried about the quality of designers coming out of education and whether we will have enough people in the design world capable of dealing with the challenges that we've been talking about today and for the rest of the day. And let me, because I'm running out of time, let me leave you with a thought from the mouth of Tim Brown, who you know is the CEO of IDEO. I believe we've got a huge opportunity to embed design and design thinking across so many other disciplines. But is Tim right? Is design just too important to leave in the hands of designers alone? Thank you very much.